Welcome to the Currency of Knowledge, a County National Bank wealth management podcast, the podcast where we unravel the layers of prosperity, explore the diverse meanings of wealth, and delve into the stories of those who have built their own versions of abundance. I'm your co-host, Christopher Phillips.
And I'm Holleigh Baker. Join us on this insightful journey as we redefine wealth beyond the balance sheets and uncover the true riches that life has to offer. Let's explore the essence of wealth in all its forms. Well, we are back. We have Austin with us. We've kept him in the studio. So thank you for the last piece. Now we are going to cover the ethical and sustainable investing, or as some of us like to call it, ESG.
Yes.
So to start, what is ESG investing?
Yeah. If you can tell me, that'd be great. It's a really all-encompassing term, but I think let's start off in the most base level here. What does it stand for?
Yes.
Environmental, social, governance.
Okay,
that's what
perfect.
ESG stands for. We're going to unpack this in this episode, but it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. There are a lot of different ways that you can take it. But at the highest level, what ESG investing is about is trying to incentivize companies to behave a way that aligns with your personal values, whether that be environmental, social, or whatnot.
Okay. Is it the same as socially responsible investing?
Yeah, it can.
Okay.
Maybe be or maybe not.
Okay.
So this is kind of what I was alluding to, where there's no consensus definition of what ESG really is or what social investing is.
Okay.
So broadly speaking, social investing can be aligned to some sort of values. So, for instance, maybe if you are religiously inclined, there are religious screened investments, social investments that might be attractive to you. There are also social responsible investing that is focused on community engagement and promoting local communities. So those, I would say, are pretty different in nature. And that's why we think it's really, really important to work with a financial professional, folks at County National, to kind of understand what the investment approach is and what they're hoping to do with their assets.
True, because I think, we all used to speak about socially responsible or social responsible sit in stocks,
right,
is what everybody thinks. So then we moved to this ESG, and the question was, is it kind of the same? Is it or is it not the sin stocks? But we'll kind of have you talk a little bit more about that later. So are ESG and other types of ethical investments, such as like impact or social, are they the same?
Yeah, they, again, not to say the same thing, but it is kind of, it can be the same or it can be different. I'm going to speak to it more in the dimensional lens and how we approach it. So we want to be very clear with our goals in our investment portfolios. And we think that's really important for investors, especially if you're someone who is inclined to invest in a way that is either maybe environmentally structured or socially structured. You should be very aware of what the investment vehicle that you're going into is going to do. Is it going to actually deliver what you're hoping it's going to deliver? So at Dimensional, we take a very specific approach to the E and the S and the G as well in our portfolios. But there are many different types of investments: socially responsible investments, social impact investing. And it really just depends on the individual product itself, the individual asset manager. So we'd encourage, do your due diligence, make sure it's delivering what you want it to deliver.
Okay. So if I am environmentally conscious, I don't want to leave a large carbon footprint and those sorts of things. How is Dimensional determining which companies are fitting into that, or is there some sort of rating?
Sure. Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah, we'll take that in two different ways. So at Dimensional, our sustainability portfolios, the goal is to reduce the carbon footprint that's associated with those portfolios while maintaining the investment principles that we all know are really critical in the investment journey. And we'll kind of get into this with ESG funds and, do they sacrifice in some areas? What's the push and pull associated with it? So we want to be very transparent, very measurable in our sustainability portfolio so you can see the actual reduction in, let's say, greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah. We think that provides a lot of clarity. Now, let's go outside of Dimensional, just the broader ESG universe. There are companies that provide metrics that screen or analyze companies based on a set of factors. They will then determine how qualified or not qualified a company might be to be included in a certain type of portfolio. We believe that it can be noisy when you add in a bunch of different factors to consider. Yeah. And then additionally, I think the investor needs to look at and think, okay, does this metric fully reflect my belief about sustainability or about social investing? If the answer is no, then you just need to be aware of that when you're allocating your dollars to it.
Okay. Am I giving up return or am I adding risk?
Sure.
Because I want ESG funds?
You don't have to. That's the good news. At Dimensional, our portfolios tend to be broadly diversified, very low cost, very tax efficient. And that applies across the board and still for our sustainability and our social portfolios. However, that might not necessarily be the case across the industry. So if you are screening for companies, let's say you're negatively screening or positively screening on companies, what you're doing is you're cutting out the total investable universe. You're starting to say, I only want these securities or I don't want these securities. Okay. Anytime that you do that, you're going to potentially increase the volatility or the risk associated with a portfolio because what you're essentially doing is putting weight into securities that either are aligned or that are not aligned to the portfolio. So that's a way that you could potentially get yourself in trouble with ESG investing. There are certain thematic funds that maybe have very low number of holdings that we would say you need to analyze and speak to a financial professional to determine if that's really the best scenario for you. But there are ways to achieve these goals, like I was just mentioning with sustainability, that don't require you sacrificing returns or don't require you to take on tons of additional costs in terms of the expenses for the funds that you're investing in. Okay.
So can I still be diversified though?
Yes. Yeah. So that's a very critical question for anytime you're doing a thematic or some sort of specialized investing, like what we would say ESG investing. It's a theme style of investing. So yes, you can be broadly diversified. In the U.S., just for instance, there are thousands of securities, frequently somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 securities on the equity side in the U.S. You can still have a very broadly diversified portfolio that looks to maybe exclude the worst offenders and still helps you to achieve your environmental or social goals.
Okay. Are they only U.S. stocks or am I globally?
You could go global. Yeah. So at Dimensional, we have sustainability and social funds that are both U.S. equity fixed income and also international and emerging markets. So you can build a fully global portfolio that is designed to achieve your goals. And that's been a really nice revelation in the industry over the last 10 years, being able to access the global markets and still express your views.
That's great. As we move into perhaps a new administration, regulatory and policy changes, regardless, honestly, of the administration in there, how is that impacting ESG funds and how Dimensional is handling that? Or does it not have an impact?
Yeah, so I think it's one factor of many that affects our investable journey. Just as asset allocators, there are certain decisions that are made by regulatory agencies that can affect the way or the style of investing. I'll give you an example. So the Department of Labor a few years back allowed for retirement plan sponsors, so folks who manage retirement plans, to consider sustainability and social in their criteria for selecting investments for asset allocators. So that can open up different investment options for people. There are also times when maybe the SEC in recent years has required some regulatory filings for sustainability metrics or their carbon exposure for certain companies. We think that's really good in just terms of the transparency. The reality is it's just one factor that, there are many different things that affect our financial journey. The markets are really good at being agile and adopting. So the good news is you just because there are changes potentially to an administration or a regulatory regime, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't pursue these goals. There are still plenty of ways that you can express your views within your asset allocation.
Okay. If I'm already in the fund and I'm fully invested, and then there is a change in policy regulations, do I have to start all over again?
No, not necessarily. I mean, that's the beauty of having an asset manager or a strategic partner, a financial professional that can do that for you. What I would encourage everyone to do is just understand what they're invested in, understand how it impacts, when it comes into play, what changes are occurring within the portfolio. But that's the beauty of the financial industry today is that, us normal investors can get broad access to fully managed products that are professionally managed at a really low cost. So no cause for concern.
Good. We touched on it briefly, the ESG versus the social responsible. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me, Dimensional has both, and then you said a little bit of the difference, but how is the social responsible governed?
Yeah. So so E, S, and G, three, what we would argue pretty different goals in the investment universe. We think governance is really important. What is governance? It's maximizing shareholder value, making sure that the folks who are making decisions, maybe on the board of directors of companies or in management positions, are always acting in the best interest of the shareholders, us, the folks who are investing in the funds. So we believe that should apply across the board, regardless of E or S or just normal investments in general. That's very important. Now, with environmental and with social, at Dimensional, we offer products that specialize in both areas. So the E, environmental, sustainability is frequently touted as the most common concern within that style of investing. So our funds are geared towards reducing the carbon footprint. So reducing greenhouse gas emissions, reducing your exposure to emissions or reserves, fossil fuel reserves as well. So we want to have a very measurable impact in that while also still getting you to your financial goals. So that's the E. The S is social. So our social funds are governed, generally speaking, by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and their investable sustainability guidelines. And that helps us to decide what do we want to include or exclude, maybe some things like sin stocks, by their investment principles. So, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, munitions, things like that. So for folks who are more inclined to be maybe socially driven investors, maybe the social portfolios make more sense for you. For folks who are more sustainability driven, more concerned about those aspects, you can do that. If you're someone who's concerned about both, good news is we have them both, so you can allocate there as well.
Great. What don't I know to ask you about this area?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more popular over the years. Loosely speaking, I think there is some conservative estimates out there about $500 billion in assets that are in some way tied to E, S, and G, investing. So I would say if it's something that is of interest to folks, speak with your financial professional and see what's available out there. Just know that you do not have to sacrifice returns or eat up on costs in order for you to express your views. There are now great products that are available in the market that will help you to get where you need to be.
That's wonderful. That's great. Thank you for sitting down with us. I'm very excited to learn about this topic, which I know is really important to a lot of our clients and others out there. So thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Holleigh.
Securities and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not being guaranteed, subject to investment risk, may lose value.